Okay, all my happy Crumpin' Wargamers, welcome back to part 2 of the Eldar deep dive. These tricksy elves are always causing problems, and we gotta learn how to deal with them. If you are an aspiring Eldar player, this is actually going to be an amazing video for you because I'm going to show you a bunch of little tips and tricks that you can use on the tabletop. We're going to use the TTS, or Tabletop Simulator program, to actually demonstrate how it works on the battlefield and how you can really mess your opponents up. And if you're not playing the Eldar because you're a rational, sane human being, and you just want to learn how to crump some elves, this is also the video for you because I'm going to show you live on the tabletop how to actually counter all of their shenanigans as well. So first off, I'm going to go through all the troops and all the fast attacks, elite stuff like that, but we're going to move pretty quick through these because it's kind of less important. We'll definitely hammer a few of the units that you really need to understand, but some of them we'll breeze through pretty quick. Most of the time we'll spend on the TTS actually kind of showing how these things work, how you're going to score, and how you're going to score against them if you're not playing as the elves. So let's jump right into it. Remember, if you guys do like this content, please give me a like. Hit the subscribe button, ask me questions, and I can absolutely clarify anything and maybe make video updates in the future to answer all of your burning questions. Here we go. So we're going right into the troop slot. So the Eldar, their troops are fairly lackluster. We're looking at Rangers, which are very cool, and they're very useful. They get to ignore Lookout Sir because they have sniper rifles, which can cause additional mortal wounds on 6s to wound, so they can plink a little bit of damage. They also hit on 2s, which is pretty cool. They gain extra armor when they're getting light cover, which can make them shockingly tanky for an elf. They're not tanky, they're just tanky for an elf in cover. And they infiltrate, which is really useful because they can spam infiltrations with a troop's choice, which is really cool. Once again, just really feeding into the Eldar's ability to truly control the battlefield. They can take what's called a wire weave net. This is a cool little trick where basically everything that charges them is going to be -2 to the charge. And the first unit that charges them on a 2-up will take D3 mortal wounds, and it's pretty annoying. So then we also have Guardian Defenders. Guardian Defenders are going to be like the rank and file soldiers of the Eldar army, which you'll practically never see. They have a shuriken catapult, which is just a basic weapon. They do actually get kind of a special ability where they get to reroll 1s to hit against enemy units when the squad is within range of an objective marker. So maybe they can do a little damage, but they're an elf with a 4 or 5 up armor save. They can take some heavy weapons. You generally won't see them because just Rangers have way more utility. And Rangers are actually, once we get into the secondaries portion of this lecture, we'll see that Rangers are actually really good for scoring points as well. So you'll see Rangers, you won't see Eldar Defender or Guardians. Let's look at the Corsairs. Oh no, my picture kind of ruined everything. Let's just bring this down. All right. So they actually have, Corsairs are just another troops unit. They actually have access to some pretty cool, decent weapons, and they can auto win on 6s. So they can be a nice little alternative to the Elder Guardians. But there's some restrictions on how you take them, which is why you don't really see them all that often. Jumping right into the elites. Dire Avengers. Okay, we're going to spend a little bit of time on our Dire Avengers here because Dire Avengers are super good. And they're really important to the Eldar game plan. So they have typically you're going to see these guys spammed out in the Hail of Doom Eldar Craft world. Hail of Doom, remember, is 6s to hit, count as 6s to wound, which procs the shuriken weapon rule, which means a 6 to wound will be like AP3 or so. So these guys actually can put out a shocking amount of damage. Each one of these dudes is going to have 3 shots. The Exarch is going to have 6 shots. So one unit of 10 is going to have, 33 shots, all hitting on 3s. Now the deal with the trick with these guys is you're going to end up casting Guide, which is the psychic power that we spoke about beforehand, which gets them reroll all hit rolls, which lets them fish for those 6s to auto wound. Then you stack onto it with the fact that what happens is you're also probably going to try to cast Doom on the target that you need to die. Because if you remember what Doom did, Doom will allow your entire army to get to re-roll wound rolls against the target enemy unit. So essentially what Eldar can do is they can guarantee 1 unit dies every turn. I mean, you put a unit of a Dire Avengers, 33 shots, 6s to hit will auto wound and be like at AP4 or something for them. Insane. Well, what's going to happen here is you get to fish for 6s. And actually, if you upgrade your Exarch with the Exarch power of Shredding Fire, which sometimes you will. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. That's only taken outside of Hail Gym, so forget about that. So what'll happen is you can just really fish for these 6s. You can put out a crazy amount of wound rolls. I did the math on it. 1 unit of Dire Avengers will do like 14 damage to a kill rig, which is pretty insane. A kill rig is going to be a T8 3-up armor save model with 16 wounds. So one unit of Dire Avengers can almost kill one of those, and then you just plink 2 wounds with literally anything else, and basically your big nasty dies. So Eldar are amazing at focus firing a unit down, and these guys are really powerful for that. They also have another super cool ability which lets them always do shooting and do an action. So they're really useful for coming in from strategic reserve and getting your retrieve battlefield data, or getting your scout the enemy, or what have you. So Dire Avengers are super awesome. In the Hail of Doom, which remember is the most popular form of craft worlds, you'll always see 3 of these squads. They're real strong, and they can be a little annoying to kill because they have 5 invuln. And then one other really tiny little detail is these guys, if they lose a model, there's a 2 CP stratagem to make them fight twice, or shoot twice. So be aware, they have a crazy amount of damage output. Let's move on. Fire dragons. Okay, we like fire dragons. Oh no, sorry guys, I clearly did not format this page correctly. Let me just fix this for you here. All right, so they all have a strength 9, 12-inch assault melted gun. Reroll wounds 1 to wound against monsters and vehicles. That's basically it. You don't see them that often. They are some pretty cool little anti-tank, but they're that's just what they are. They're kind of like worse eradicators that are slightly cheaper. All right, Howling Banshees. These are models that have literally every single rule in the entire freaking game. Like every rule in the game. These girls, they move 8. When they charge you, no overwatch is allowed. They have +1 to wound when they charge. So even though they're like strength 4, they're still +1 to wound. So they're ruining everything pretty dang well. They have advance and charge, always. They also provide fight last when they charge an enemy unit. They are always -1 to be hit. So you guys want to understand what I mean when I'm saying they will always, they basically get every single rule. It's kind of amazing. They get every single rule in the game. They also have some pretty cool upgrades. So the Exarch's going to take Mirror Swords, which doubles the attacks. So they're going to get 10 attacks, and it's going to be damage 2 when they take the Exarch upgrade for piercing strikes. It is amazing how much damage this one unit of ladies can put out, and do not sleep on them. They can spam up to 3 of these units because they're only like, I think it was 115 points, might be like 10 points more. Then you have a few upgrades that you can get. Piercing strikes, you'll get +1 damage to the profile of the Banshee Exarch, which you'll always see. You can get graceful avoidance, which means all models in the unit get a 4-up invuln instead of the 5-up that all aspect warriors get. And then nerve shredding shriek, which will cause 1 mortal wound per model in the unit, which is pretty cool for charge phase damage. So as you can see, these girls provide a lot. So let me switch real quick because I want to show you exactly what these chicks could do. We're going to go over to the TTS view. And there we are. Okay, cool. So I kind of set up a little table here for you. Let's take a unit of Howling Banshees. And let's say I have a unit of, I don't know, Beast Snagga Boys. And they are safely hidden behind this ruin right here. And the Eldar player gets to go first. Well, these Howling Banshees, they are inside the Falcon. So we'll just measure 3 inches out. And we'll place them right about there. So we'll put them right at the edge. Oh, no, come on. Silly TTS. We'll put them right at the edge. So they were able to deploy 3 inches outside of it. Well, now they also get to advance and charge. Remember what we learned in part 1 about our strands of fate dice. Where strands of fate dice means at the beginning of the turn, you get to roll 6 dice and keep 3 of them. So we have an advance and a charge dice here. So let's say we use our auto advance for 6 inches. So now these girls get to move 14 inches. So let's move them 14 inches. Okay. So make sure I measured all this correctly. So they move 14 inches out of the Falcon. Now we have a 12-inch charge, and you're like, well, you can't. That's pretty good risk. We're willing to risk that. But no, my friend, because we have 2 charge dice, so they can also guarantee a 12-inch charge. So suddenly these Howling Banshees get to go, woo, 12 inches, guaranteed, and then they'll do their pylons, and they'll slaughter this entire unit of Beast Snaggas. And then they can do pylon, move block shenanigans, and they can also easily score behind enemy lines turn 1. That is how fast they are. They moved guaranteed 24 plus 3. They move guaranteed 27 inches since they have the fate dice to guarantee it. Meanwhile, they're also going to be at +1 to wound against these Beast Snagga boys. They're going to have 1,000,000 attacks. They're going to be fighting last, so you can never interrupt with them. they are a nightmare to deal with. So be really, really careful with how fast these girls can move. Placing these girls inside of a transport is a very common tactic. And remember, we also have more stratagems that we could use, or we also have more things that we can use on them, because there's a psychic power called Ghost Walk, where we can give them +2 to their charge. It's amazing how fast they are and how much damage they can really deal when they get to their enemy. So be super aware of that, guys. This is a very common tactic where they will just very easily move 27 inches and then do their pylons and then their consolidates, so they can easily get 30-inch movements in a turn. It's scary, but it's also possible. So don't fall for that trick. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. All right, striking scorpions. These guys are also awesome. They are infiltrators. They get exploding 6s to hit. Did I make sure? Yeah, okay, I did switch. All right. They get exploding 6s to hit. And they also get 1 additional mortal wound on 6s to wound. Now, when you're playing your Eldar player, or you are an Eldar player, make sure you separate out the explosions, because the explosions can't actually proc the 6s to wound. Remember, we have Doom that can be cast on our enemy, so we can always try to get fishing for those 6s to mortal wound by rerolling our wound rolls. The Exarch is a total jerk for the striking scorpions. Let me explain what this Exarch does to you. What we do is we give him crushing blows, which means when the Exarch hits, or a non-titanic model, the auto attacks will auto wound. This actually includes the explosion hits, because the way it's worded is it says every time this model hits an enemy target, not makes an attack roll, hits. So the exploding hits also count for this. So he's going to be at damage 2, and he's going to auto wound everything he hits with. It is amazing, because he's going to have, I don't know, like probably 7 to 9 attacks, depending on how many explosions he gets, that are just going to auto wound. This guy will crush. He's very, very strong, and he still causes mortal wounds on, or I'm sorry, he doesn't cause the mortal wounds, but yeah, it is amazing. So that's what they do. I mean, they infiltrate, they get up close, they shred anything. The only things they're not super good at is vehicles, because they can't cause their mortal wounds against vehicles. So you can kind of counterplay these guys with vehicles, but since they infiltrate, they're also going to move block the crap out of you, and they're going to kill a lot of stuff. So watch out for these striking scorpions, man. If you're playing against Eldar and you get to deploy first, you always want to drop your infiltrators to block his infiltrators from getting to you. Really, really important. Okay, so let's just go to the next slide. We have Warlocks. Warlocks are pretty cool. They get to cast spells. Remember, they have the Runes of Battle, so they can make you double move. They can remove cover, add cover. They can make +1 hit, +1 wound, -1 hit, -1 wound. They have some really good spells, and they can be taken in interesting little groups. Let's just put this down so you can read. So when they're taken individually, they count as a character, so they can give up Assassinate. So most of the time, you're not going to see that unless they really need it. They get to cast 1 spell, or if they have 4 or more models in unit, they can cast 2 spells, which is really dang useful. They have 4 invuls, and they wound all units on 2-ups in melee. There's no exceptions to this. Just everything is always wounded on a 2-up. Pretty dang cool. So you're not going to use them to like charge headfirst into things, but they actually can do some nice little damage. You can also put them on jet bikes, so then they're Warlocks and jet bikes, and it's the exact same thing, except they're way faster, and they have some decent shooting with their shuriken catapults. But they get to cast 2 spells when they're in a group of 3 on jet bikes. When it's on foot, you need a group of 4. When it's on jet bikes, it's a group of 3. So Warlocks are great. You're going to see them in essentially every single list because they have great spells that they can use, and there are no slouches as a second defense in melee. All right, then we have Wraith Blades and Wraith Guard. These are seen a lot less often, but they're also still very good. They're elite infantry units. They're always -1 damage with a 4-up invuln, which is really, really nice. If they take blades, they get damage 2 attacks. Which is super, super cool. Now, then you also have the Wraith Guard, which are the guys with the cannons. They actually get to shoot into melee, which is super powerful. They have great anti-tank shooting, which is going to be a D3 + 3 damage. So you don't see them that often, but I think we should see them more often. They're quite good. Going on to the Wraith Lord, he's a Dreadnought equivalent. He's cool. He can have some big hits. He's shockingly tough. I think he's like a T8 model. He's always -1 damage. He's essentially just an Eldar Dreadnought. Nothing super special with him. Then we have the fast stack. This is some of the parts where the Eldar really start to shine. No pun intended for the Shining Spears. So they have a 16-inch movement. They're fast, people. Super, super fast. They get some decent anti-infantry shooting or anti-heavy infantry shooting, depending on the loadout you give them. They are going to be +3 strength in the charge, which makes them strong for an elf. They also get +1 hit when charging, so they can hit pretty well as well. When Then you have a few different like Exarch powers. There is a combination here called Heart Strike that you're going to put on the Exarch, which means 5s to 6s to wound from the Exarch causes mortal wounds in addition. And then there's a special Exarch relic that you can give him, which allows him to reroll all hit and wound rolls. So he can really fish out and put a bunch of mortal wounds. He can easily give an extra 4 mortal wounds for the unit, so they can hit really, really hard. There's also a relic that the Exarch can take called the Kane's Lance, which will cause D3 mortal wounds on the charge and make people fight last. You don't see that as often because the Paragon Saber Heart Strike combination to cause to be able to fish for mortal wounds is a little bit better. But sometimes that Kane's Lance can be really good if you see 2 units of Shining Spears. One of the cool things that we do with Shining Spears is you can cast Will of Assyrian, which will allow them to take the objective from you, right? So since they're not obsec, but casting Will of Assyrian makes them obsec. So that's a nice little trick that you can do as an Eldar player. Shroud Runners. I hate these things. I hate these things. I hate these things. I actually couldn't find models on TTS to show what they do, so I'm gonna demonstrate with a different model. But so they have a 16-inch pre-game move. The only trick with that is they can't end within 9 inches of an enemy unit. They have scatter lasers for 6 shots each at strength 6, AP 0, which means these will annihilate your infantry because they hit on 2s, Blizzard skill 2. And they also all have a sniper rifle shot in addition. They are a bike unit that actually can gain light cover, which makes them quite durable. And they also have a really annoying stratagem called Wire Weave Grenades. One unit, excluding fly, within 12 inches, suffers D3 mortal wounds, and you can subtract D3 inches from their move. It can be used once per turn in either the movement or the charge phase. This can make charging very dang frustrating for people because they can just choose one unit, be like, boom, here's D3 mortal wounds, and you're minus D3 inches to whatever you're trying to do. I hate Shroud Runners. I'm going to kind of show you what you can do with Shroud Runners here real fast because it's kind of terrifying. So let me just switch to the TTS view. And voila, we're on TTS. Forgive me, people. I couldn't find Shroud Runner models, so I'm just going to use Wind Runner models instead. But pretend these are Shroud Runners. So you just put them on the line because they get a 16-inch pregame move. So if you go second, you just move them back here. If you go first, you will just pick them up, and you're going to move them 16 inches. Pretty fast. And then in your turn, you get a 16-inch move, which can guarantee a first turn behind me lines, kill Gretchen. Or if you really want to annoy me, you just put them right here. And then you say, right outside of 3 inches, so my character can't intervene. And then you say, all right, well, you're stuck in your deployment zone turn 1, and it's impossible for you to move. These things are so powerful. Their ability to get anywhere on the battlefield turn 1 just means, nope, you're not leaving your deployment zone. And that is why you hate playing elves. A lot of times, though, if they get first turn, they're just going to bring these guys over here, score behind enemy lines, and just kill any infantry unit, while the rangers will actually come on up, and they'll do the move blocking for them, so you don't have to worry about wasting them. So look at this. Look at all this movement. So this what we've done here is this is a first turn Eldar turn. So first of all, the Howling Banshees were able to move 30 inches or 27 inches, and they get their pylon and consolidate after they kill these Beast Snaggle boys. The rangers get to come up and just say, nope, you can't ever leave your deployment zone because I'm standing right here. And then the Shroud Runners, because sorry, I didn't have the right models, get to move 32 inches, get guaranteed behind me lines, and then just annihilate us. This is how fast the elves are. If you're an elf player, this is how fast you could be. If you're not an elf player, this is why you hate elves. Okay? It's just really, really, really gross. So let's just go back to the PowerPoint. I just wanted to kind of demonstrate just how freaking fast that was for you. And we're back to the PowerPoint. Cool. So that was all about Shroud Runners. Swooping Hawks. Man, I really did not set this up to be read. Swooping Hawks are really annoying as well. After they shoot, they get to teleport anywhere on the battlefield after a battle focus move is made. So as long as they didn't advance, after they shoot, they can teleport anywhere 9 inches away every single turn. Basically makes it impossible to interact with them. We hate Swooping Hawks. They really are jerks. Now they are costed to a point where you see them much less, or you only see 1 unit instead of 3 units like we used to. They do have a 5 invulnerable save, which makes them kind of annoying to kill. There is a craft world called Swift Strikes, which we spoke about briefly. But what this allows is a battle focus move after advancing, which means these guys who fly like 14 inches will then advance. So then you can advance up to 6 inches. So they're going to move like 20 inches. And then after they do all their shots, they get to teleport away, which is stupid. Oh my gosh. They do actually have decent firepower, even though it doesn't look like it at first glance. They get each one of them gets 4 strength, 4 AP, 0 shots at 24-inch range. 6 is to hit auto wound. This is so powerful because a unit of 10 is going to have 40 shots, right? If you're guided, they get to reroll hit rolls and fish for those 6s to auto wound. But then they also get doom, so you can always reroll for wounding. These guys can put out a crazy amount of damage into infantry, even into like your elite infantry with that 3-up armor save, or your vehicles with a 3-up armor save, because those 6s to hit will auto wound. They're so freaking powerful. They also have a very, very cool stratagem, which means when they fly over an enemy unit, roll 1d6 for each swooping hawk. Every 4-up deals 1 mortal wound to a maximum of 6 mortal wounds. I hate doing it, but I have to switch back to TTS right now to show you just how terrifying this really is. So let's just switch back. Okay. So let's grab our unit of swooping hawks. So they're all the way over here. And let's say that they wanted to kill this kill rig. So they're going to fly. And they're going to advance. So let's make them move 10 inches so they all fly over the thing. And then they're just going to move backwards 10 inches. Well, they get to mortal wound bomb them. Even though it looks like we didn't even actually move, they just did like that. And they still get to roll the d6 to cause mortal wounds. It's insane. And then they get to shoot. So they can cause like 6 mortal wounds right there and then shoot. And then after they shoot, they get to teleport away. If they're swift strikes. If they're not swift strikes, it makes it a little harder. They can still do the same thing, but they have to be a little bit closer because they only have like a 14-inch move. So they would have to be like right here for that to work outside of swift strikes. But inside of swift strikes, they could be this far away and make that plan work. And then still teleport away. So next turn, they're back here again, and they're completely safe. It's a nightmare. So that's Swooping Hawks, guys. Now, they have a few kind of cool little X-Arc powers that they can get. But, it's not that important for them. You can make the unit -1 to hit. Give the whole unit a 5-up, feel no pain, which is terrifying. Give them fall back and shoot, but you don't really need that, generally speaking, because you're never going to get in combat with them anyway. All right, Viper. Viper's just a really fast-moving light vehicle with a little bit of shooting. They can take some cool heavy weapons. Warp Spiders. Warp Spiders, you'll see a little bit. They have some pretty dang cool anti-infantry shooting, so... they also get to ignore terrain. They're not encumbered by terrain. They get to roll 2d6 for the battle focus, which is the movement you can do after shooting if you don't advance. Then they always have the same invuln as everyone else. When a charge is declared against them, they get to move 6 inches. This was all supposed to be in one strike, so let's do this. Yeah. So when a charge is declared against them, they get to move 6 inches. Now, you do get to redeclare a charge, but it makes it very hard to tie these guys down. Each one is going to have d6 attacks at 12-inch range, so they are short range, but they cause a lot of freaking damage. Then once per game, they're going to be able to teleport anywhere on the battlefield after they shoot, after they do a battle focus move, which is just Eldar in a nutshell. Wind Runners. People don't quite understand the damage output that these Wind Runners get. So I'm going to explain to you the damage output that they get. They're highly mobile. They have a 16-inch movement with a 6-inch auto advance. So they move 22 inches. 22 inches. They can be decked out in one of 2 ways. One, they get Assault 4, Assault 4, Strength 4, AP 1, Damage 1, which is disgusting in Halo Doom. Or you can give them Heavy 3, Strength 6, AP 1, Damage 2. Both of them are shuriken, so they both benefit from the shuriken rule of getting +2 AP if they wound you on a 6-up. But if you have a unit of 9 of these guys, 9 is 27 shots at Strength 6, AP 1. Some of them will be at AP 3, depending on how you wound. Damage 2. They can put out an insane amount of damage, guys. Insane. And they're so fast. They're so fast. They can cut any angle in the game, right? It's just amazing, the angles that they can cut. I basically always try to do everything I can to kill these things first, because holy crap, they can deal some damage. Heavy Sports. Falcons, they're like a drop pod. This is another way to use the Howling Banshee trick that I was talking about earlier. So you can just drop them down turn 1, 9 inches away. Howling Banshees, then you just use your fate dice. They can get out, and then you can use your fate dice to guarantee that 9-inch charge for the Howling Banshees. Pretty cool. Fire Prism, it's got a very, very powerful anti-take shooting. I think we talked about that a little bit in part 1, but we'll just go over it again. They do like 3d3 damage each, but for 2 CP, you have say 2 Fire Prisms. You don't see this very often, but in case you do, You can spend 2 CP and have one fire prism fire all the shots, so it'll be 4 shots instead of 2 shots. And they'll all ignore influence. Pretty dang cool. So they can be a little bit nasty. Then we have Night Spinners and Support Weapons. Support Weapons. Oh my gosh, Support Weapons. All right. So the Night Spinner is pretty decent in direct firepower, fire platform, and they get to ignore all hit modifiers. So even though they take the -1 ballistic skill, they don't take any like dense terrain or anything. So 2d6 shots at strength 7 AP2 damage to, which is pretty gross. But then the ones I hate the most. Oh my gosh, I hate these. They're called D cannons. D cannons. These guys are disgusting. Strength 12 AP4 D6 plus 2 damage, I believe. Oh yeah, that's why, because I did Powerful. All right, so D6 plus 2 damage, and a wound of 6s also cause additional mortar wounds. Wow. Okay, so it's D3 shots each. I guess I didn't write that down. Let's see, D3 shots. They put out a crazy amount of damage. There's a CP stratagem because they are technically guardians, so they can benefit from the stratagems for guardians. They get to reroll hit rolls of 1. They're indirect, guys. It's indirect with that much anti-tank. They cause so much damage and basically just make everyone cry at all times. In Ulthway, they're a little bit better too, because you can also spend a CP to make them +1 to hit. Now, there's also another little benefit. If they're within range of a ranger's unit who can see the enemy, what'll happen is they can reroll all their hit rolls, which is, I think that's a 2 CP stratagem if I remember correctly. But these guys are so powerful. And it really stacks well with their redeploy stratagem, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment when I go through how these guys actually play on the battlefield. Let's talk about the secondaries. So Eldar are epic at battlefield supremacy and focusing firing down a single enemy unit through the use of spells like our Guide and our Doom, for example. Purge the enemy, if it's available, they can always take something to kill units, whether it's bring it down, assassinate, whatever. No mercy, no respite. Wrath of Cain is awesome. This is a really good secondary if you build for it. 1 victory point for destroying a unit with shooting from an aspect warrior, which would be generally going to be your Dire Avengers, or 1 victory point for destroying a unit in melee with an aspect warrior, which Howling banshees, your striking scorpions, these are not hard to accomplish. Then plus 2 CP if you do both in the same turn. So if you think you can kill 2 units in a turn, this is an amazing secondary to take. Against some units, against some armies like Custodes, you would never take this, right? Then we have Warpcraft. They have the best ability to complete any Warpcraft in the entire game. They crush Warp Ritual and they crush Psychic Interrogation. It's very, very easy because remember, the Quicken spell lets you move your caster after they perform the action. So this is worthy of me doing a TTS view. So let's just go back to TTS real fast. Hello, we're back. Okay, so I need give me a Farseer. And let's take let's just take a Farseer on bike. And we'll take a Warlock on bike. Let's pretend this is a Warlock on bike as well, because I didn't get the right model. So, let's see the Farseer on bike. He can move his 22 inches. So we're just going to pick him up, and we're going to put him right in the middle so he can cast Warp Ritual or Psychic Interrogation. In this case, he can do either. Now, this is very risky, because typically speaking, you would never want to expose your character like this, because he just basically dies immediately after he casts Warp Ritual or Psychic Interrogation. However, for Eldar, they're just going to cast Quicken. And they're going to have these, remember, these are the Strands of Fate dice we rolled. They have 2 guaranteed Psychic power cast, because each one of these 3s can be used as a 6 for a Psychic power, which is amazing. So let's say we go and cast our Psychic Interrogation, and we beat the kill rig, so they get a free CP, and they get Psychic Interrogation. But we want to make sure we don't die, so we're also going to cast Quicken with this guy. Remember, I just had the wrong model, so sorry. So pretending this is a Warlock, not a Farseer and Jetbike. So we're just going to cast our Quicken, and we'll just use 1 Fate dice to guarantee it. And then the guy moves all the way back, because these guys have 22 inches when they advance. Now, he can't shoot or fight afterwards, but why would he care? It doesn't matter. Now he's 100% completely safe. And going back to those D cannons real quick. Yeah, I'll just wait on those D cannons. I'll wait on those D cannons. But yeah, so that's how good they are. They can do this for Warp Ritual on any mission, or they can do this for Psychic Interrogation on literally any mission. And then since it's an 18-inch range for the Quicken spell, you're never at risk for getting denied. And since you have Fate dice, you can guarantee you'll cast it. It just makes them amazingly efficient at casting any of their Warpcraft abilities. Let's hit back to the PowerPoint. All right, so that's the Warpcraft. We talked about Wrath of Cain, how that works. Talk about some other secondaries. They have very easy behind enemy lines and engage due to massive amounts of teleports. So we already demonstrated that, right? So the Howling Banshees can move 30 inches, 27 inches, plus 3 for the pylon. The Shroud Runners move 32 inches very easily without charging. Our Rangers can just move on up. It's very easy for them to get any behind enemy line or engage. And they're going to be able to do it literally every single game. Then we have Shadow Operations. They have Shadow Operations at a really good well. So they are amazing at retrieve battlefield data just because they have lots of MSU units who can be doing it, who can be teleporting. But you don't have to take battlefield data. You can take Scout the Enemy. Scout the Enemy is a very, very cool secondary that if you do it more than 6 inches outside of your deployment zone, then you gain 2 points. Now, Rangers complete it immediately or at the end of your phase, whereas everyone else will complete it in the next command phase. So you typically use your Rangers for this, so which is pretty good. One of the classic ways to do it is you take the Rangers and you put them in strat reserve and you have them walk into your enemy's deployment zone and do it. Because what happens then is if you do it in your enemy's deployment zone, it's 4 points instead of 2 points, and it stacks with behind enemy lines. So you're also scoring points for behind enemy lines. So they can stack their secondaries very, very well. Also, remember for the battlefield data stuff, if you're trying to do battlefield data or Scout the Enemy, really, you can also walk your Dire Avengers in from strat reserve. And those Dire Avengers can shoot, kill everything in the deployment zone, and then still do the secondary because they can shoot and do secondaries. So Eldar are amazing at their shadow operations as well. Let me just kind of demonstrate how that, well, let me look here. Oh, all right. Let me just kind of demonstrate how that works on the tabletop simulator view. Okay, so we have Rangers here. I'm just going to kind of copy this unit. Okay, so turn 1, these Rangers started here. He went first, so they just move on up, and they're going to move block the crap out of our kill rig. And while they're move blocking the crap out of the kill rig, they're also going to do Scout the Enemy for a free 2 points. So now they get 2 victory points in turn 1 from Scout the Enemy. And we have our Shroud Runners and our Howling Banshees behind enemy lines, so we scored 4 points on behind enemy lines. Pretty dang good. Next turn, let's say we had 2 units of Rangers, so we also blocked this freaking battle wagon. So next turn, the Orc player is going to go. This kill rig's probably already going to be dead because of our decannons, right? Because our decannons, they started right here, and they just moved 6 inches up, and they're just going to shoot the crap out of the kill rig. If we wanted to, we could also move them 6 inches like this, so we can draw a line of sight from one of them, so no one in the unit actually takes any minuses to hit them, which is really freaking nasty. Because remember, the rule for indirect is pretty stupid. But if one model in the unit can see the target, no one takes the penalty for indirect. And this is very easy to accomplish because of the 2CP redeploy stratagem. So the Eldar player can deploy exceptionally aggressive. He can deploy with all of his scouts right here, his scouts right here, and he can deploy on the line with his decannons. Because if he goes second, he just spends 2 CP and redeploys everything to be safe. Actually, he might even keep them there to move block. But if he goes first, then he can just move his 6 inches up. Or he can even still redeploy to, say, deploy him right here, and then move them there 6 inches up, so that they don't have to take any of the negatives for shooting the indirect. So they can still just move kind of like that. And boom, 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 they're going to crush you. That's Eldar, man. Their redeploy, their battlefield supremacy is just absolutely amazing. If it's turn later in the game, and say we have a kill rig up here, these scouts are dead, and this battle wagon's up here, we can always walk into our enemy's deployment zone with the scouts, do Scout the Enemy, score behind enemy lines, get a bonus CP for that because they're troops, and then they also get 4 CP. So this one unit's going to score 7 victory points and a free CP just for walking in here doing an action. Guys, the Eldar will dominate the battlefield at all times. The problem is that they're fragile. So one of the tricks that I always do is I always start my Storm Boys inside a battle wagon. Whenever I play against Eldar, I will always start Storm Boys inside a battle wagon. Because if I do a turn 1 wall, they'll move 21 inches out of the battle wagon, and they'll get in, they'll charge, they'll crush a lot of stuff. A good Eldar player will not fall for that trick. Remember that. But if they do fall for the trick, then you can really cause some havoc on them. Man, Eldar are just, they're going to control the battlefield. So what you have to do before the Eldar player, if you're playing against the Eldar, you have to dominate the infiltrate game. So let's talk about how to dominate the infiltrate game. It's really fairly simple. If you are playing against them, you need your infiltrators of your own. If you don't have infiltrators, I think you kind of auto lose against Eldar in a lot of matchups. So the very first drop I would, as an orc player, take if I won the roll off to see who deploys first, I would say I will deploy first, and I would drop these commandos right here. And I would spread them out as much as physically possible to cover as much distance as is physically possible. And I won't care that if they die for first turn if I go second, because what's happening here, let me just put a aura up. Now suddenly, he can't infiltrate anywhere in the middle of the zone, so he can't block my movement. And his shroud runners, even if they have that 16-inch pregame move and they're starting right here, they still can't drop here because it's too far. So they would have to drop somewhere like over here. And then over here, they could still get a good movement, but they're going to not get the whole unit into my deployment zone. So it's very strong to have this. At this point, the Eldar player is going to have to take their infiltrate unit and probably drop them right here so that I can't put my second infiltrate unit, which means I'll put my second infiltrate unit over here. So that's how you block the Eldar pregame movement. And the Eldar's player is going to be doing the exact same thing to you. So if they go first, they'll put their rangers right here, which means that you're going to have to pick a flank for yourself, which is going to be safe. It's just the way it's going to go. The way the cookie crumbles. Let's hit back to the PowerPoint. All right. How do they play? So they're going to focus fire any unit down to death pretty easily. They're going to get rerolls to hit from the guide's power, and they're going to get auto wounds on 6s because they're going to be probably Hell of Doom. And they're going to be rerolling wound rolls for most of the army against that one unit. So any Death Star unit that you have in your army dies. Whether it's the Terminator with Black Rune of Damnation brick, whether it's just a massively powerful, tough, nasty dude. I think Mortarion would still die to them. Like you're just dead. Eldar will kill the one thing they're trying to kill. Their speed will allow them to get angles you're not expecting. Because remember, they get 22 inches with their bikes, and then they still get to shoot, and they ignore the assault penalty because of their battle focus special ability. They have fire and fade, so they can shoot and then scoot. So, they expose themselves, then move back behind cover so you can't shoot them back. And they have extreme ability to score points without having to interact, right? So just like I showed you with their ability to get warp ritual and then teleport away from the quicken spell, or their swooping hawks can shoot you, teleport away. They just won't have to interact with you, and they're going to score a ton of points. So their biggest strengths is their ability to move block the crap out of you. You get 0 movement, and they're going to focus fire one thing down every single turn, sometimes multiple things. How do you play against them? Pressure. Pressure, 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 pressure. If you go first, you have to claim the battlefield. You cannot let them claim the battlefield first. If you claim the battlefield first, Eldar are going to be having a hard time of it. Their movement is their power. They have very little defensive ability. Any combat unit, any shooting that you put into them is going to kill them. So if you can get the pressure, get battlefield domination first, and get literally anything into it, you can beat them. But it's going to be really hard if they get to dominate the battlefield first, which is why the pregame aspect of this matchup is so important. You must have infiltrators to be able to handle Eldar. If you don't have an infiltrators, I don't think you win, kind of regardless of what army you're bringing. Except there's a few exceptions. Desolator spam is pretty disgusting right now. So the key to the matchup is just not letting them decide where to let combat happen. Your screens, your movement blocks are highly effective. If you have any real psychic defense, that can really be a problem for them. Like Grey Knights, for example, can be a big issue for Eldar. But it's a tough matchup. I love playing against Eldar because I love taking some elf ears home as a trophy. But I also hate playing against Eldar because they're really challenging. I do think they are probably the best army in the game. The best non-broken army in the game. The reason why I don't think we see them winning tournaments is just because it's very mentally fatiguing to play Eldar. Playing Eldar at the high level for 5 games in a row, that would be exhausting. They're really I think they're much better on TTS than they are in person because in TTS, generally you play 1 game at a time. You don't have like those back-to-back matches, so it's much less of mental load. But guys, this is Eldar. If you like this content, please give me a like, give me a subscribe. I love bringing these deep dives into you, or deep dives to you, so that you can get better at the game of Warhammer 40K. Guys, enjoy your crumpin'. Love you all, and I hope everyone has a blessed and amazing day. Bye-bye.